Hello, and today we're going to do the second part in Unit 3. So this will be Unit 3 B, B as in BB. This is cell structure and function. I've got a lovely redhead young lady looking through a microscope, looking at a cell, probably an animal cell because it's amorphous. It doesn't really have the true squarish, rectangular, angular of a plant cell. Could actually be a single-celled creature or a single cell from a multi-celled creature. And then this blob down here, this isn't the way it was really supposed to look like. It was supposed to look more like this, but I thought it actually looked like a mask or a face with some funky mouths and ears and noses and things, but it's really supposed to look like this. So cell function, structure and function, where we're going to talk about endoplasmic reticula, whether it be rough or smooth, nuclei, lysosomes, mitochondria, ribosomes, probably these small little dots. Then we have Golgi body down here. We do have cell membrane. We have cytoplasm. We have all kinds of material inside. Most of this is made out of water. We will talk about the speciality of mitochondria. It actually does have its own little membrane as well as a cell membrane. It also has its own DNA and actually reproduces like a bacteria. Actually, we already talked about that. That was Lynn Margulis, and then she actually talked about endocytosis, or how we actually pulled in a bacteria very good at making ATP or energy for the cell, pulled it into the cell, and now it's actually become part of a cell, controlling its own reproduction. Some cells, like muscle cells, actually have more mitochondria because they need to produce more energy for what the muscles do, and some cells have even less. So the first organelle I want to talk about is a cell wall, and cell walls, let me just make sure I'm in the right place. Cell walls are only going to be found they're actually made out of cellulose, so it actually does give some strength, and it actually is found in plant cells, which don't have bones inside. But it's got a great big nice cell wall. Right inside of that is the cell membrane, which is going to allow things to come through. We'll talk about that in a second. But this actually is made out of cellulose, and cellulose actually gives it rigidity, so it actually can make an oak tree, or it can actually be all by itself. Cell wall is a rigid structure outside of the plasma membrane, cell membrane. It provides support and protection. It's found in plant and fungi cells. And this is telling me that we've reached the end, and we're going to now figure out if it's an animal, a plant, or both, or if it's a prokaryote, a eukaryotic, or both. And which one do you think it is? I think it's going to be a plant. And then it can actually be lots of different cells. It can be single-celled or multi-celled. It can be a prehistoric or prokaryotic cell, or it can actually be a eukaryotic, a more futuristic cell. So it is found in both prokaryotes and eukaryotes, as long as it's a plant. And if it was in Cell City, let me go back to that. If it wasn't a cell city, it would probably be like the fortress or the wall that supports the city. Plasma membrane or cell membrane is the thing we're going to talk about next. It is actually found in all cells. It's even found in two layers around mitochondria. So it allows things to go in and out. It is the outer boundary of the cell. It is very flexible, and it is selectively permeable, which only means it allows some things in but not everything, and some things out but not everything. Larger things come in a process called endocytosis, where the cell membrane actually indents, material moves in, it'll pinch off, and it'll move in and be vacuole type material, and then the body will actually decompose the plasma membrane or cell membrane that's around it, and whatever material is in there will be free to go into the cytoplasm, or the material that's actually inside the cell. It is found in both plants and animals, and it is found both prokaryotic and eukaryotic. And if it actually is going to be part of the cell, it may actually be like the gates with guards that allow things to go in and out. The nucleus. If you are prokaryote, you don't have one of these, so it's going to be pretty easy to answer one of these. But this is the control center for the cell. It actually does have the DNA, which is going to code for RNA, which is going to code for proteins. It also has a nucleolus inside, which is important, and we'll talk about that a little later. And it also divides through during mitosis, where we get two copies of the DNA to go to both of the daughter cells. It is found in both plant and animal cells, and it is only in the eukaryotic cell. And if this was going to be part of a cell city, it would be the mayor. The nucleolus, it assembles ribosomes. Ribosomes are these small little dots. Ribosomes are where we actually use RNA to create the proteins, which is everything that is living. It is located inside the nucleus. It is found in both plants and animals, but it is only found in eukaryotic cell. And if it was in the cell city, it would be the college or the trade school, where we actually educate the people to go out and empower the planet. Ribosomes are the site where protein is created, so protein synthesis, and it's where all proteins are assembled. The key is going to come from the DNA written in the RNA, and the RNA will take the information to a ribosome and will make a protein. Once that protein is created, it may get another message and create a different protein, or it may actually create the same protein over and over and over. That again is controlled by the cell itself. They also are scattered throughout the cell, which you can see them all over the place. They're also on the endoplasmic reticula, if it's called rough endoplasmic reticula, and it's called rough because of the ribosomes that are on it. Is it plant or animal or both? And is it prokaryotic or eukaryotic? You got to be able to make proteins, so it's got to be in both. And if this was a cell city, it'd probably be your construction company. Endoplasmic reticula. Endoplasmic reticula is like the road. It actually transports materials around the cell. You can see it actually is this particular one's coming out of the nucleus, and it brings material out. We do have ribosomes in it, so if the material coming out is RNA, very specific RNA, it'll actually make proteins using these ribosomes. Highly folded to increase surface area so the chemicals can go in and out. And rough ER does have the ribosomes attached to it, and smooth ER does not. Is it found in plants and animals? Well, we got to transport things in both. And is it found in prokaryotes or eukaryotics? Remember, prokaryotes don't have these organelles, so it isn't just in eukaryotic cells. And if this was in the cell city, then endoplasmic reticulum would actually probably be the roads. Golgi apparatus. Golgi apparatus are these pancake-looking things, and that's what I see when I actually see them. They're places where we actually modify, where we sort, or we package proteins for export. It can actually package them for use inside the cell, or it can actually package them more likely to go outside of the cell. And flat stacks of membranes, again increasing surface area. They're usually found associated with endoplasmic reticula, but they're like packing materials, and they are found in both plant and animal, and they are only found in eukaryotes because again it's an organelle, and organelles are not in prokaryotic cells. And if this was a cell city, this would be like the post office or UPS or FedEx store, where we actually package things to be sent out. Vacuoles. Vacuoles are big areas to store material. Usually it's for storing water, but it can store food or waste as well. They're sac-like structures. A large central vacuole is found only in plant cells, and few smaller vacuoles can be found in animal cells. So if we take a look, see large vacuole plants, small ones in animals. And is it found in plant or animal or both? Is it prokaryotic or eukaryotic? It still is eukaryotic because it's an organelle. And if this was going to be in the cell city, can you guess what it would actually represent? Supermarkets. It could be a trash receptacle. It could be a trash dump. It could be a Walmart, a superstore. It could be lots of different things. It all depends whether it's storing good stuff, bad stuff, or stuff that's in between. Lysosomes. Lyso, just like we talked about hydrolysis, lysosome means cutting. So these are going to be things that are actually used for digestion or breaking down of old organelles or material, proteins or carbohydrates or things brought into the cell. They're sac-like structures that contain digestive enzymes, proteins that actually help things happen much faster than normal. Is it found in plants or animals or both? Only in animal cells. Prokaryotic or eukaryotic, it's an organelle, so it's only going to be in eukaryotic cells. And if this was going to be cell city, probably be a city dump. Or it could actually be a factory that renders proteins or something. Scientists don't think the plant cells have lysosomes, but vacuoles does do similar things. So they may have a lysosomic structure in it, but it doesn't really look like it's a lysosome, even though it may act like one. So if it doesn't look like a duck, but it talks like a duck and walks like a duck, maybe it is a duck, maybe it's not. Mitochondria. They produce energy from the cell. They convert food, the glucose, C6H12O6 that we got from plant material that we actually ingested, and changes that into ATP through a process called cellular respiration. And if you have these things and your cells have them, muscle cells even more, you're making ATP and you get lots of energy. It has an outer membrane that is relatively smooth and an inner membrane that actually is in quite a bit folded, again for increasing surface area. That ring DNA would be inside and ribosomes would be all over, but the fact that it's got those two membranes, we may have actually ingested these things before. Is it in plants and animals or both? Well, we got to both produce ATP. We both need energy. Is it prokaryotes or eukaryotes? It's only in eukaryote because, again, it's an organelle, and organelles aren't in prokaryotes. But if they were able to do that, they would produce a lot more energy, and we'd have very energetic bacteria. And if this was going to be in Cell City, it'd probably be your power plant or someplace to actually produce energy. The other type of organelle that actually does have a double membrane is the chloroplast. Chloroplast actually is the organelle that captures the sunlight, that actually uses water and carbon dioxide absorbed by the leaves in the plant to create glucose in a process called photosynthesis. It contains the chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is the green material that actually gives plants its green color. It's not really the cell wall. It's not really the cytoplasm. It's actually these chloroplasts that actually give the leaves the green color, and it's actually with the breakdown of these things that actually allow the other pigments in the cells of the leaves to actually produce colors other than green in the fall. And it has an outer membrane and an inner membrane. The inner membrane are more like stacks inside, and we'll talk more about that when we get into photosynthesis. Is it animal or plants or both? Boy, we sure wish there was in animal cells, but it's only in plants. Is it prokaryotic or eukaryotic? And again, it's an organelle, so it's a eukaryotic cell. And if this was actually going to be in a cell city, maybe the solar panels for collecting sunlight. Cytoplasm, the stuff that's inside of the cell. It actually is a clear gelatinous fluid that actually produces trigger pressure or pushes out against the cell membrane or the plasma membrane, giving the thing structure. It supports and holds organelles, sort of like connective tissue in animals. Is it in plant cells or animals or both? And is it prokaryotic or eukaryotic? Well, we're finally talking about something that's not an organelle, so it actually is in both. And if this was going to be in a cell city, it could be the ground, it could be the grass, it could be the area in between the roads, whatever that area may be. Cytoskeleton. Cytoskeleton actually provides a framework for support. It's almost like the bones for a cell. It helps the cell maintain its shape. It also allows things to move inside of the cell. It helps organelles move. And is it in animal cells or plant cells or both? Well, it is in both, even though plants don't particularly need these for support or framework. It does actually help the organelles move around. Is it prokaryotes or eukaryotes or both? Again, it's an organelle and eukaryotic. And if it was going to be in a plant cell, and here's another picture of the cytoskeleton, it's not quite as simple as it's depicted in this diagram. It looks more like this, and you can see that it actually does provide support as well as material, can move back and forth on these things. And if this was going to be in the cell city, it'd probably be a construction site. Centrioles are only visible. These are paratubular structures that help in cell division. They're only found in animal cells and protista. They tend to only be visible close to the cell cycle where we actually start doing the progress. These are the things that move to one end or the other end that actually the DNA will split apart and move toward this cell, creating a daughter cell, or move it over to that cell, to that organelle or to that centriole up there. And then the cell will pinch off and it'll actually make two daughter cells with mitochondria and ribosomes and vacuoles and all the things that are in the cell. Plants or animals or both? It's only in animals. Is it prokaryotic or eukaryotic or both? It is only eukaryotic. It is a organelle, but we still have prokaryotes do have reproduction. They do just do it by pinching, so they actually get the DNA to go through each side of the pinches. And if this was going to be a cell, actually Cell City, it probably doesn't really have an analogy. Another thing we have are what are called cilia. These are short hair-like structures that are found on the outside of the cell. They provide motion. They also provide a place where we can actually get food into our oral cavity or our mouth so we can ingest it. It is found only in animal cells because they are the only ones that move around, and it is only found in eukaryotic cells. And if this was going to be in a plant Cell City, we're not going to really talk about it in Cell City. So if you take a look, these are actually cilia that we have in our respiratory system, and their job is to actually collect dust and particulates that we inhale in a mucousy environment, that it actually sends it up towards your mouth or your nose so you can get rid of it. And there's another animation of it actually moving with the particulates. And this is an organism called a paramecium. I was going to call it a placenta, a paramecium, and the paramecium is shown in this picture, and they move around with the cilia, chasing after things. The next one is called a flagella. Flagella are long projectiles. Usually there's only one, but there can be more than one. These are actually whip-like structures that go back and forth. You can see this sperm cell right here with the tail moving back and forth to give it propulsion. Is it actually found in animal cells or plant cells? Well, it's only in animal cells because plant cells don't move. Prokaryotic or eukaryotic or both, and this one is found in both because this does allow some bacteria. In fact, that's a bacteria right there with its ring DNA and its ribosomes and not much else inside of it, although it does say it has a plasmid, and I'm not sure what an inclusion is for bacterial cells, but it's got that really thick capsule. This is probably a gram-positive bacterium. And this is where we're stopping for this section. So appreciate you stopping by, and that was 3B, cell structure and function. And hopefully we're going to start our Cell City project. Thank you. Bye.